Before I get started, I want to give a shout out to all of the paying members of my Patreon channel. Your support is necessary, and without you, none of this is possible. Seriously, y'all, I wouldn't be even able to pay for this intro without you. I'd have to sling meat on OnlyFans. Excuse me, back to the intro. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, Cash App and PayPal are available. Just be sure to let me know in the for section if it's okay for me to thank you publicly, or else I'll assume you want to remain anonymous. And here we go. Welcome to Layman's Journal Live, a unique show where I, your host, will be giving you honest insights on all trending issues from a traditional male perspective. So give the video a like, leave a comment, share the link on your social media platforms, and let's talk about it. So, let's get it. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Layman's Journal Live. And I am your host, Layman's Journal. But before I get started, I want to give a shout out to Kiela Bonner, J. Freeman BA, Shirachi 8731, and Zabar Cole for their support of the channel. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And if you are in the chat, say what's up. Let me know you're here, and I'll shout you out. As a matter of fact, let's see who's there right now. I know I saw. Who did I see? What's up, my like me Bane, my moderator, Barry Little. What's good? Trash Panda. Thank you for coming through. Who else we got? Dominic Harris. What's up? What's up? My other moderator, Darkroom, the Society 007. What's good? Nice to see you here. Nightfall Drop. What's good? What's going on? How's everything going, sir? Yeah. Oh, so if you're new to my channel, you can catch me screaming. Not right now, actually. Not right now. I'm having technical difficulties. But typically, excuse me. Sorry about that, but typically you can catch me streaming on Kick, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitch. Not right now on Kick because, well, it's too much inside baseball. I'm not going to explain all of that. But you can catch me on all of those fine platforms, okay? Let's open my microphone. Okay, I think that's better. Let me make some adjustments here. One second. Okay. Now I can hear. Okay, so yeah, I'm on all these fine platforms if you're unfamiliar with my work. Let's see, what else do I got going on here? Oh, I want to make one more thing while I'm talking about stuff. I also have a Patreon and a Cash App and a PayPal. You can see the Chiron going at the bottom. But for those of you who don't know, this used to be a channel dedicated to entertainment media where I would do reviews and in-depth breakdowns of some of your favorite, most popular movies. But due to copyright restraints, I had to move those operations over to Patreon. Now, I have a lot of content up there, about 34 videos, long-form breakdowns of films. Now, half of them are behind a paywall, but half of them are free. So go over there and become a member. I would prefer that you become a paid member, become a member nonetheless, and you can see my breakdowns of these stories. Okay? Glad to get that out of the way. But I also want to make an announcement. So Wednesday, I was having some big trouble with my YouTube channel. Not my YouTube channel. Something was going on with my live stream. And it just wasn't working. It just wasn't working. So I had to end the stream early. And I was working on it, on Wednesday night. What was it, Thursday night? Okay, this is I had an impromptu practice that pretty much just became this thing where we were just talking and chatting. And I said, we went for 2 hours. And I said, this is kind of fun. So what I'm going to do on Fridays, not this Friday, because today I got to do Wednesday's show because Wednesday's show was messed up because of the frame rate issues. But on Fridays, I'm going to have a Just Ask Me Anything segment where I'm going to have maybe 1 or 2 topics. But for the most part, I'm just going to be interacting with you guys in the chat. You guys can come in and make your comments, ask your questions, whatever I talked about throughout the week, whatever is in the news, and we'll chop it up. So yeah, it's something I was doing late. I don't know how many of you all were there, but it was late. I guess you want to say Thursday morning, Wednesday night. I got on at about 3 a.m. Yeah, so, oh, sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that Nightfall drop. I hope he feels better. Hope he feels better. Yeah, let's talk about that really quickly. But condolences and prayers to your brother. What is this? What's the name of that? Okay, I'm not showing this. It's called Run, Fight, Hide. What is with Google is picking on me, man? I might have to switch browsers. Search engines. Every time I go there, they're asking me to do these captcha tests. Okay, what is it? Run, Fight, Hide, Infidels. Because somebody mentioned it. Yeah, the trailer dropped for Jonathan Majors' new movie. He's doing it with what's the name of that company? Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro's company. And basically, he plays a retired federal agent or Navy SEAL of some sort, and he's giving a lecture at a university, and it just so happens while he's there, a group of Islamic terrorists show up and start doing what they do. I guess I can't say the T word, I'm sorry. But a group of Islamic radicals show up, and he just starts going to town. And I'm sitting here watching it, and he's giving this speech. I don't know if I can play it because I might get a copyright restraint. But he's very hard when it comes to international radicals, so to say that, right? And he's giving this speech, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is Citizen Vigilante Part 2. Citizen Vigilante Part 2. It looks like the role was written for a YT person, but since he came available, they put him in that position. But basically, he's kicking ass throughout the movie. And I don't know how to feel about it. I haven't seen it. I don't know. I think it's coming out in September. But and I hate the Daily Wire and I despise Ben Shapiro. But because Jonathan Majors is in it, I'm gonna go watch it. I don't know if it's coming out in theaters or where it's gonna be released, but because Jonathan Majors is in it, I'm gonna support it. That brother's been through a lot, and I want to see him, course corrected. Well, he has course corrected. I'll take it back. He was never off course. He was just wrongly accused. But I want to see him get his career back. So yeah, it does look. Who said they saw it? Thank you, Zabar Cole. Let me go ahead and screenshot your name so I don't lose it. Thank you so much for the gift. Who mentioned it? Yeah, someone saw it, and it does look interesting. Yeah, I saw that Jonathan Majors trailer on Facebook. Looks interesting. It does. And I hope it's good for his sake. And so let's talk about it. We have a myriad of topics we're gonna get to. We're going to talk about Michael Porter Jr. We're going to talk about Luka Doncic. We're going to talk about some lies that are being told. We're going to talk about why Americans aren't having children. And we're going to talk about a Christian feminist. I've been waiting. You know what? The thing that really disappointed me a couple of days ago when I tried to go live and I was having that issue with the frame rates and packages dropping, is that there was someone who came to my group, a Facebook group last night, and it had some nasty things to say about men. Okay. And I was going to get in there and give the person the business, but I said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take a screenshot of what that person said, and I'm going to return on the air in the morning, and I'm going to talk about it right there. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. That'll be better. You know, as one YouTube creator once said, you have to monetize your haters. You have to monetize your haters, and that's what I'm going to do. With that individual, yeah, they're going to get the business for what they did. So let's go here with some good news. The United States version of the Squid Game by David Fincher has been canceled. I don't even think they went into production. But I'm glad to hear this. I was a huge fan of the Squid Game TV show that came on. I thought it was a fresh, original concept that was really good. The sequel, I'm up and down on. I mean, there were some great points and some low points, but it was okay. But I was disappointed when I found out they were doing an American version, because the Squid Game is raw. It's rough, and it's unapologetic. Okay. It's like something I've never seen before. And the things that they do. So I'm like, an American version for what? The South Korean version was good enough. And you know, if they make an American version, it's not going to be as good as the original. It's going to be a watered down version. And I'm glad to see that the legacy of that show is not going to get trampled on by, especially a company like Netflix. We talk about Disney and how they are committed to DEI and all that stuff. No one's worse than Netflix. Netflix is way worse than Disney. Far worse. But I'm glad to see that canceled. In the next news, this is Nikki Bella. Now, fellas, raise your hand if you heard this before. She's a wrestler, and she says at 42, she says she's super celibate and pretty much like a nun. Oh no, you mean a woman who's gotten older no longer wants to sleep around? Okay. Yeah, this is like Evelyn Lozada, this is Black China, this is so many other, you know. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this because we talk about this all the time, and I was pretty much Anyway, she's a single mother. She was married, she got divorced, and she says here, and I write, and please understand, she's not a Christian. Her celibacy has nothing to do with faith. So fellas, when you meet a lady that got, quote, saved later in her life and is now talking about abstinence after, quote, having fun in her 20s and 30s, that ain't the Holy Spirit working in her. That is something secular women do too. This is a secular woman. She's not a Christian. And it has more to do with a biological change in them that may have been accelerated by decades of birth control and casual hookups. And I've talked about it, but it's just, you know, I'm tired of that shtick. And I say that as a Christian, and I am a Christian, and I believe, you know, marriage, you know, relations belongs within the confines of marriage. However, you know, you have this Swiss cheese type of practicing of the faith by Christian feminists, where they take the things they like and disregard the things they don't like, okay? And so typically when these lovely ladies get older and their options get thinner, they are not as inclined to jump in the sack with the men that they are dating, so they set up these rules. All of a sudden they want to practice abstinence, which is good, but only because of that guy or because of biological changes. But it has nothing to do with them being so inclined to serve God, because they always tend to do it later in life, much later in life. But whatever. Been there, heard that, seen that 1,000 times, nothing unique, whatever, moving on. You know what? I'm going to file this story and talk about it, because it seems like we get a new story about like this every time. Like the singer Maya is doing this as well. But I'm going to start, building up a database of these celebrities that all of a sudden find clarity. Nikki Bella, same girl. John Cena dropped like a bad habit, but after they got married. Yeah. No different than Brittany Renner's another one. Exactly. Yeah. So we're going to talk about this. Let me stop this right here. I didn't mean to play this video. So you got this guy. He is in, oh man, I can't even play that. But he is in, I can't even show that. Doggone it, this dude. How do I take this caption off? Okay, I'll do it like that. So he's been going around Charlotte, walking up to random white tea women and just clocking them over the head. He knocked one girl out, clean, I can't show it. But it's all over TikTok. And he's going around and he's just hitting women, just cause, claiming that he knows them, blaming Donald Trump, and he's chasing them, and he's just popping them. And already it's drawing comparisons to the case, which also happened in Charlotte. Hold on. But it's already showing comparisons to another case in Charlotte of the woman who was sliced and deleted on the bus. She was minding her business, and this random guy came up and attacked her, ending her life with a blade. And this guy is using his fists. And already you see the supremacists teach your daughters to avoid them, cross the other side of the street and get out of their way. If you see one, best to call the police. Now, what is he talking about? He's talking about black men. But I want to make this clear. This guy is mentally ill. And when he's caught and you look into his record, just like this dude here, you're probably going to see a long track record of arrests and mental illness. Okay? And that's really the issue here. This isn't the attitude or the mindset of most black men. Most black men are not attacking white tea women at random. Even the stats bear that out. When you look at people that are victims of violent crimes, 90% of them know their assailants. So this idea that some random guy, specifically a black man, is going to come up and do you harm is factually incorrect. But nonetheless, they're using it. They're using it to demonize or pathologize all black men as a whole. And the bottom line is this guy needs to be in somebody's prison. Or should have been. Yeah, he's got mental issues. And you look into his record, I bet you'll see some liberal judge that wanted to give him a second and a third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth and the seventh chance. That's what this really is about. This has got nothing to do with black men. But they'll do that anyhow. Yeah. So, let's move on to the next topic. We got Michael Porter Jr. And he says he's been trending because he said some things that were somewhat controversial. And I happen to agree with him, by the way. He's talking about tipping culture. And he says, if Uber Eats order is $250, why are you still tipping them 20% where they're doing the same amount of work if you ordered a $20 meal? I would say tipping culture is definitely out of control. This is something I have said before with tipping. You've heard my argument on this. But let's hear what the great Michael Porter has to say. And this guy, I'll quickly become a fan of him. He says some of the crazy, I won't say craziest, but he speaks the truth. He just says what's on his mind, and he's right most of the time. That's what nobody has to say.
I just think the 20% rule is like if you spending $3K on a meal, like, you know what I mean, you shouldn't have to tip $600, 20% to me. But like, and then Uber Eats is another thing. If the Uber Eats order is $250, why are you still tipping 20% when they're doing the same amount of work as if you ordered a $20 meal? You know what I'm saying? They still just bringing a meal to you. So I would say tipping culture is definitely out of control to me.
And he's right. He's right. The labor is the labor, regardless of the cost of what you're working on, of what you're delivering. Okay? I used to work in the automotive factory, and I said this before. On some days, depending on what line I was on, the cars that I was assembling, or the car parts that I was assembling, would go to a vehicle that cost $40,000. Right? And some days I would be working on the line and the parts that I was working on went to a car that cost $200,000. But whether I was working on a $40,000 car part or a $200,000 car, my pay rate was the same. Okay? When you order a package or something from Amazon, and the delivery man comes by to drop off your package, whether it be from UPS, FedEx, or whatever. Whether it's a $2,000 iPhone or $30 worth of disposable plates, that delivery man is paid the same rate. Yet somehow, we've convinced ourselves that those in the hospitality industry, those that are waitresses and waiters, should be compensated a tip according to the price of the meal. Well, a plate is a plate is a plate. So you see what I'm saying? So there are some places where you go to, a hamburger is $10. Okay. But there are some places that are really ritzy and really upscale where a hamburger can be $100. The cost of delivering the burger should be the same regardless of the price of the burger, because the server is doing no greater labor. You should tip them according to their labor, not the price of the food that they're serving. If you really want to tip somebody for the price of the food, shouldn't it be the chef who prepared it rather than the person that brings it out? You know? And I think tipping should be, according to labor. Now, if you have one person, it should be a small tip, regardless of how much the food cost. But if you have a party of people, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people, you should leave a much bigger tip, because more labor is involved. More labor is involved. But of course, you get people in the comments section that say things like this. So immediately, you get somebody who looks up his earnings and they see that he's made $150 million and he's due to make $40 million this season. He needs to shut the F up. And so the mindset is, because he's got so much money, he should be willing to tip or pay more. And so it really is this failed socialistic mindset that because somebody makes a lot of money, he is obligated to give it to someone else. No. Having $150 million doesn't mean you have to tip obscene amount of money. That's insane. What is this mindset? The person thinks that someone else is entitled to his wealth. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. He earned that. He's not obligated to share anything with a stranger. What do we have here? This is a dirtbag thing to say when you got money. Again, whether he has money or not, no one else is entitled to it but him and whom he decides to share it with. Let me open up all these so we won't have these delays. Delivering a $5 bottle of wine involves the same labor as a $500 bottle. No logical reason to tip based on the value of packages. That's correct. It's the same labor. It's the same labor. That bottle of wine is going to weigh just as much. It's just that the quality of the wine in the bottle is going to be different. This is insane. You know, some people are never arguing in this thread that he's rich, therefore he should. Yeah, I agree with that. Then someone says, if you get paid millions for literally playing a game, you shouldn't be confused about people working for tips. And this is something that people like to do. Oh, this just athlete, he's just playing a game. Well, here's the thing. If it's just a game, how come you didn't choose to get rich by doing the same thing? You know, they love to say it's just a game. But, you know, you're probably too short, fat, old, and unathletic and uncoordinated to do it. So it's not just a game. If it was just a game, anybody would be able to do it. You know, where is it? And I left a comment here, and it's something now I wanted to say to this. Let me see if I got it. And this is my whole point as well. Instead of us sitting around debating how much customers should tip, why don't we hold businesses accountable for not paying their employees a decent wage? It's amazing how we've allowed them to flip the conversation around and make us, the customers, the villains, when it's the business owners that are benefiting from cheap labor. Okay? Like I said, these restaurateurs are exempt from laws that require a certain amount of minimum wage. And somehow they convince their employees it's our fault. No, it's not our fault. It's not our fault. Not our fault. They have no idea what goes into being an NFL or NBA player. There is no offseason. Exactly. You know, I played football at a very serious high school program. You would not believe the amount of work that it takes to play high school football at a competitive high school. It's extremely hard. It's extremely hard. They shouldn't. Let's move on to the next topic. My man Luka. My man Luka Doncic. My man Luka Doncic. Let's take our time here. Let me walk you down slow. So, Luka Doncic. His ex-fiance is seeking $50 million in their settlement. She wants $40 million for herself and $10 million for her two kids. Her two kids. I believe it takes two to make children, but notice how they're calling it them her kids. She also wants to reduce Luka's custody rights from 2 days with the kids to just 1. So she wants this man to give her $50 million just to see his kids once a week. Just to see his kids once a week. And I'm gonna, it's. Let me keep on going. I'll have my thoughts at the end. Someone wrote this meme. You meet a girl at age 12, you move together, built a family, and now she wants $50 million in more custody. He's known her for 10 years. Now, TMZ covered the story, and thank God for Grok, we don't have to read the story. We can just let Grok read it to us.
Luka Doncic's ex-fiance wants $50 million in more custody. Luka Doncic's ex-fiance, yeah, I'll settle for $50 million, ! By TMZ staff. Published August 6, 2026, 11:06 a.m. Pacific Time. Updated August 6, 2026, 1:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Getty Composite. Luka Doncic's ex-fiancée Anna Maria Goltis said she wanted to settle their issues amicably, but TMZ Sports has learned she's taken their fight to Slovenia, and as far as she's concerned, the cost of settlement is $50 million.
Now that's interesting. She's going to a different country, Slovenia. I guess that's where they live full time. Not in Los Angeles, where he currently lives. Not in Los Angeles where they currently live. Now I wonder what that means in terms of Luka. I mean, if he lives in the U.S. and she lives in Slovenia, does the court have any authority over him in this civil case?
Sources with direct knowledge tell TMZ Anna Maria has filed a new claim in Slovenia, and she is seeking $40 million for herself. We assume the remaining $10 million is for their 2 daughters.
No, the remaining $10 million is for herself as well. It doesn't take $10 million to raise 2 children. That's also for her.
Luka has said he'd do anything for his kids, so $10 million may be realistic for them, but the $40 million is a whole other story. We're also told she wants to strip Luka of some of his custody rights. Currently, he has the kids at least 2 days a week, and she wants to reduce it to 1 day a week. As we reported, Anna Maria filed docs in Los Angeles this week asking to withdraw her child support petition, saying she wanted to resolve the matter amicably and by a mutual agreement in the best interest of their children. But apparently, that will come at a steep price. Luka and Anna Maria share 2-year-old Gabriella and 7-month-old Olivia, and were together for a decade before ending their engagement earlier this year. Luka previously argued California was the wrong place for the fight because the girls live in Slovenia, and said he'd already initiated proceedings there addressing custody and support. Frankly, that seems like a solid argument, and Anna Maria may have dismissed the California case because it was a loser. Instagram.
Because it was a loser. Okay. So you can't do that in the U.S., what she's doing.
At Anna Maria Goltis. The Lakers superstar is currently in Slovenia to be closer to his daughters, after revealing in May he'd skip playing for his national team this summer while pursuing joint custody, and he'll apparently mix family and basketball while he's there. Luka is reportedly hosting the entire Lakers squad for a 4-day minicamp in Slovenia later this month.
Okay, so now DDG, a streamer, had his thoughts on the issue. And I'll give my thoughts after we listen to what DDG has to say. Now, he's in kind of a similar situation where he has a baby mama and paying child support. But fortunately for him, his, quote, baby mama is more of a high-profile woman, so he's not getting raked over the coals. He has a child with actress singer Halle Bailey.
Yeah, I want to get married. I do want to get married. But if you tell a girl, if you finna get married and you tell a girl, hey, I want a prenup, you know, if we break up or we get divorced, my money is my money, your money is your money, or however y'all agree on it, and she has an attitude with that, obviously it's a hidden agenda. Because why you care about money so much? You know I'm gonna take care of you. You feel me? That's why I be like, bro, if I ever get married, 100% doing a prenup. I ain't do all this grinding, sleepless nights, and all this working just to give you all my money. Hell no. I'm gonna take care of you. I'm gonna pay for everything. But you gotta work too. The fuck? 50 M's? I'm sure the nigga got it, but damn, bro, that's crazy. Yeah, bro, I want to get married. I do want to get married. But if you tell a girl, if you finna get married and you tell a girl, hey, I want a prenup.
Now, there's one other story I want to add to this case before I move on.
Who's 30?
Okay, because this is another conversation that's going on with Drake and his baby mama. Okay, that's not what I wanted. That is not what I wanted. But shout out to Dark Room Society for sending me the story. But apparently that's not what I wanted. X giving me the wrong freaking thing. Pardon me as I grit and grind my teeth. I'm just a little annoyed by that. Give me a 1 second. Okay, thank you, X. That's not what I'm looking for. I I want the actual story. Is this it?
Who's 36.
Actual articles. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, they're gonna make me do this. I'm gonna have to download it first. 1 second, folks. Just a little perturbed right now. Just a little perturbed. I'm trying to get to the actual story, and they're giving me everything but what I'm looking for. Where is it? I hate this. I hate this. This is so goofy. Okay, we're getting there, and here we go. All right, here we go.
Who's 36. She just married.
Now they're talking about Drake and his situation with his quote baby mama.
Who's 36. She just married a 25-year-old.
Oh, damn.
She married a Thai athlete. So basically, she went on a podcast and she said she never wanted to be with Drake romantically.
Again, this is the mother of Drake's child.
She only wanted him for child support and
Damn.
always intended to marry someone else. Drake reportedly pays her around $700,000 per month
No
in child support.
Fuck.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe Drake is paying $700,000 in child support to this individual woman. That I don't believe. But I'm not going to quibble about it.
In way.
And so she was on the podcast like, yeah, I just did this for the come up. I just wanted, because she knows she's a porn star. So she was like, I just,
God, why do I have to say that word?
had sex with him, whatever the case is, kept the baby because I wanted to have that money monthly and I knew that I wanted to marry.
$700,000 a month for a child is ridiculous.
It is.
Come on, man. We need to change these laws, man. This is getting out of control. What the baby needs $700,000 for? Like bottles and diapers and milk ain't costing.
Again, I think it's probably more like 70,000. I think there was a case not too long ago where there was a billionaire who he wound up paying $70K a month, not 700,000. I don't think Drake is paying 700,000. I think that's exaggerated. But even still, even if it was $10,000 a month, a kid doesn't need $10,000 a month. $700,000 is what. Well,
$700,000 a month.
And now she's cracking because she gets to marry the love of her life. And she got $700,000 coming in.
Yeah, that's
from
7.5.
another man.
That's 8. What is that? That's 8.4. 8.4 a year? Damn. 8.4 a year.
I bet you he ain't slipping up again. Drake is probably not playing that shit no more. He probably like, fuck no, I'm not about to get caught up with this.
Here you go, 8 million. Here you go for the year. That's wild.
That's probably not nothing to him. But
that show you that he make a lot of money.
He makes a lot of money.
A lot of money.
So yeah, so she basically was like, I'm married. She remarried to a guy who is 11 years younger than her.
Oh yeah. Her little boy toy.
So he's running the same game on her that she ran on Drake. A man marrying a woman 11 years older than him with a child. That's a come up for him. So you're going to have him getting rich by proxy. This woman's going to come up off of Drake's money, and he is too. And watch, he'll put a baby in her, and he'll end up suing her for child support. Ain't that something?
Well, they're married, so it's more than just a boy
that's
toy.
That's going to be a phase. I'm telling you.
Maybe.
That's going to cut.
What you mean? Maybe.
Maybe.
That's
Maybe.
a phase.
Well, they're married, so it's more than just a boy
That's going to be
toy.
a phase. I'm telling you.
Maybe.
Fire this woman. Fire this woman. I don't want to get on, I'm getting tired of watching podcasts that these men put up, and for some reason, for the sake of balance, they hire these stupid ladies to be on the show. Stop that. There's nothing wrong with having a woman that has, great takes and opinions, but don't just let any broad up there just because you want to have a balance. Find somebody who's smart.
That's going because he young. He gonna get popping because he gonna be known for, hey.
Yeah. So, but getting back to Luka, this is a problem. This is a problem. But it reminds me of that situation. But here's the thing about Luka. This whole situation, they're not even married. She was a fiance. How do you get a $40 million settlement from being a fiance? How? There's no documentation outlining your relationship. That's why marriage is important, because you could go to the courts and say, hey, Your Honor, according to this documentation, the two of us were together in a union, and therefore I'm entitled to some compensation because our relationship is legally certified by the state. But when you're claiming to be a fiance, there's no documentation for that. That's a private agreement between two parties. And it could easily fall down into a he said, she said situation. What if a crazy woman goes around telling people that she was a fiance of, say, LeBron James or something like that? And she has a baby she has a baby. Not even a baby. And so she can just argue, she says that she's entitled to $50 million or $60 million. Okay? She could do that under this precedent because she doesn't have to prove any legal documentation. She can just say, I was dating him for a long time and he proposed and I said yes. That's insane. That's why you don't go by a fiance's claim. You have to be married to be entitled to things. And then this thing right here, $10 million for the kids. It's not for the kids, it's for her. The cost of raising a child in America or in the world today, I guess you could say, is about $300,000 a year. Okay, $300K a year. Let's pick out a calculator. So you figure $300K to raise a kid times 18. That's 5. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me back up. I'm doing my calculator. It's $300,000 to raise a kid for 18 years. So, and let's say they got two of them. Oops, I'm doing all kind of things wrong. So that's 600,000. So that's divided by 18 years, divided by 12 months. That's about the price of raising a child per month. That's about the price. $2,800, $2,777. That's what it breaks down to per month. Okay. So where do you get $300,000 from? Where do you get $700,000 a month or $70,000 a month or $10 million? Because that times 12 times 18 is about $600K. Okay. Oops, I didn't mean to push that, but yeah. Can you see that over there? I don't know if you guys can see that. Whoopsie. I'm just gonna leave that alone. But it's about $600K. That's what the cost of raising the kid. 2 kids, $600K. So what is the $10 million for? The $10 million is for her. It's less than $1 million to raise 2 children. And someone said, yeah, $300K is generous. Exactly. That's what it's for. And so the people make the argument, well, the kid should live the same lifestyle as the father. I agree. A child should live the same lifestyle as their father. So let the child live with the father. Give him custody 7 days a week. If it's so important that the child have the same lifestyle as the father, the child should live with the father. And if the mother cannot raise the child without the father's support, the mother shouldn't have custody of the children. If you really want to do what's right for the child, you give the child to the parent that can afford them. And that's what it is. Extorting men for money, because it's not about the children. If it was about the children, then the children would live with the father. It's about the mother getting a come up. And that's a great point. We wonder why people walk away from kids, men walk away from kids altogether. Exactly. She's following this in Slovenia. I wonder if the kids are already there. So he's at the mercy of what she does. But you made a great point. This is why men walk away altogether. You know, because I'm sure Luka Doncic can afford this, but there are cases where men are on, they're not paying these, they're not being charged these outrageous fees, but there are men that are being priced out of being fathers due to child support and the courts. That's what's so crazy about this. And again, she's not a wife. This is a fiance. This is a fiance. Using the kids, she's holding them hostage, is what she's doing. That's what this is. She's holding the children hostage as a ransom to get more money out of him. That's a shame. We need tort reform. We need tort reform of the court systems, of the family court systems. If the price of raising a child is $300K over the course of a lifetime, then child support should be no more than $3,000 a month. $3,000 a month. That's it. Cap it. Hard caps. And maybe if you live in Little New York and LA, maybe you'll charge maybe 15% more, 20% more, whatever. For the standard of living, maybe you can double that at best. But this is ridiculous. Absolutely. What are we doing on time? We got an hour left. We're doing all right. Do y'all want to talk about this? Y'all want to talk about Kendra G? No, I don't. Let's talk about this. This is what gets me. So there is this group called 8 at the Table, and I follow them on Facebook, and apparently they post these memes based on statistics and studies, okay? And it says, women are happier without kids and without women, study says. So let's bring it up. Where is it? God. Of course, Facebook changed it. They changed it. This is not the story. 1 second, people. I got to bring this up. I had this queued up, but for some reason, I hope they didn't take it down. But it's not there anymore. I hope they didn't change it. Where is it? But I want to talk about this really quickly because I want to read the quote to you and why I am so kind of annoyed by it. Let me see if I can see all photos. Let me bring it up. What was it again? It's this. Light-skinned girl with an afro. Light-skinned girl with an afro. Let me see. I had this all queued up. There it is. Okay, there we go. And it says, here we go. The findings were popularized by Paul Dolan. We're going to talk about Paul Dolan. Paul Dolan is a liar and a clown. But let me go ahead and look him up. Okay. And it says, a professor at London School of Economics, okay, who emphasized that women's well-being is strongly tied to autonomy. That means being alone, reduced stress load. Not autonomy. That's not what that means. Anyway, reduced stress load and freedom of time use. Important context. This doesn't mean that relationships or motherhood make women unhappy. It means choice, support, and equity matter more than status alone. Happiness isn't about opting out, it's about opting into in your own terms. The source is the American Time survey and Paul Dolan happily ever after LSC. Okay, let's look at Paul Dolan really quickly. You ever come across somebody that says something that's really dumb and you have to look at them to see if they are as dumb as they look, or they are look as they, if their looks matches their ignorance? This is Paul Dolan. And I can clearly say yes, it does. It does. But let me tell you why Paul Dolan is a liar. And this came out in Vox, V-O-X. It's a blog. And Vox is a very liberal rag. It says, new book says married women are miserable. Don't believe it. Many books aren't fact-checked, and we're increasingly realizing they're full of errors. Now, I want you to notice the date here. June 2019. So this lie by Paul Dolan, this supposed expert, has been going around for 7 years. This lie has been going around for 7 years. That's 85 months that we've proven this story to be fake. Yet yesterday, or August 3rd, a couple of days ago, people are still passing this shit around as if it's true. But for 7 years, 84 months, plus a month, plus it came out in June, 85 months, it was disproven. Now let's listen to this story.
Here's the full article, read word for word. Title: A New Book Says Married Women Are Miserable. Don't Believe It, by Kelsey Piper, published June 4th, 2019. Last week, a shocking claim about happiness made the rounds in the press, from The Guardian to Cosmopolitan to Elle to Fox. The claim? Women should be wary of marriage, because while married women say they're happy, they're lying. According to behavioral scientist Paul Dolan, promoting his recently released book Happy Ever After, they'll be much happier if they steer clear of marriage and children entirely. Married people are happier than other population subgroups, but only when their spouse is in the room when they're asked how happy they are. When the spouse is not present, F-inging miserable, Dolan said, citing the American Time Use Survey, a national survey available from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and used for academic research on how Americans live their lives. The problem? That finding is the result of a grievous misunderstanding on Dolan's part of how
they're being generous. Dolan did not misunderstand that, okay? Don't buy that. That's the article I made. Let me tell you something. A lot of times at these magazines and news bureaus, they have a legal department that reviews every article that's being printed. And so for liability reasons, they can't speak directly, okay? Everybody knows that Paul Dolan is lying about this, but for legal purposes, they probably can't say that, so they'll say he misunderstood. But I'll say it, he's clearly lying. He lied. He knew what he was writing and intentionally misinterpreted the data. Continue.
How the American Time Use Survey works. The people conducting the survey didn't ask married people how happy they were, shoo their spouses out of the room, and then ask again. Dolan had misinterpreted one of the categories in the survey, spouse absent, which refers to married people whose partner is no longer living in their household, as meaning the spouse stepped out of the room. Oops.
Yeah, what they mean by spouse absent is you're probably dealing with couples that are separated, legally separated. So these are couples that are already going through the process of divorce. And of course, a person is going to say, now that I'm divorcing this individual, I'm happier. So you're talking about people that were miserable together. But he's conflating that. He thinks it's saying, oh, when the spouse left the room, the women told the truth. That's not what it is. And he knows that. Okay, because he's supposed to be some type of professor. He knows what that means, but he wanted to sell a book, so he lied about it.
The error was caught by Gray Kimbrough, an economist at American University's School of Public Affairs, who uses the survey data.
Now, I saw that play out live 7 years ago. Kimbrough went to X and Twitter, and he put out post after post after post after post after post, exposing, because he worked for that organization that Dolan was quoting, that Dolan was lying on. And he said, hey, buddy, I am a sociologist. I worked for that organization, and I think he helped author that study. And he pointed out all the ways in which Dolan was a liar, that the information wasn't as he said it was. It was a long post. You have to look it up. It was years ago.
And realized that Dolan must have gotten it wrong. I've done a lot with time use data, Kimbrough told me. It's a phone survey. The survey didn't even ask if a respondent's spouse was in the room. Dolan confirmed to me by email, we did indeed misinterpret the variable.
So you listen to that? So he went, because he is actually a professional, he contacted Kimbrough and said, hey, bro, you got this wrong. And Kimbrough said, yes, I got it wrong. Kimbrough said he got it wrong. Not Kimbrough. Dolan said he got it wrong. This guy. He admitted he got it wrong. Remember, this story was disproven 7 years ago based on a book that he wrote. And he admitted in an email, yes, I put the lie in the book. Let's continue.
Some surveys do code whether people are present for the interview, but in this instance, it refers to present in the household. I have contacted the Guardian, who have amended the piece, and my editor, so that we can make the requisite changes to the book. The substance of my argument.
Okay, yeah, so the Guardian changed it. That was one of the companies that reported on that book, and his publisher changed it. I think they amended the book or added a disclaimer, so the publisher changed it and corrected it. So again, this is a story that came out 7 years ago, okay? And the person who put it out there who said this admitted to themselves that, hey, yeah, I got that wrong, okay? And his publisher changed it. But still, people are passing it around like it's truth. The American Times survey never, ever, ever said that. And Paul Dolan backed away from the lie. Yet here we are in 2026. And people are still passing it around like it's truth.
That marriage is generally better for men than for women remains. Kimbrough disputes that too, arguing that Dolan's other claims also fall apart with a cursory look at the evidence.
Listen to that. So that wasn't the only lie he told. He says Dolan's other claims fall apart when he examines them. So this guy has no truth in him at all. Yet he's a happiness expert, telling women that they should be happier without marriage and children. But you have an actual expert, a professional, saying, no, this guy doesn't have any bit of truth in him. We should check to see if his name really is Paul.
As he told me, this is only the most recent example of a visible trend. Books by prestigious and well-regarded researchers go to print with glaring errors, which are only discovered when an expert in the field or someone on Twitter gets a glance at them. In May, author Naomi Wolf learned of a serious mistake in a live on-air interview about her forthcoming book, Outrages, Sex, Censorship.
Okay, I'm gonna blurt that out because they say some words I can't say.
Executed for sodomy in Britain.
Oh God, that was the word I was trying to bleed out. Doggone it. Anyway, let's keep going.
But as the interviewer pointed out, it appears she had misunderstood the phrase death recorded in English legal documents. She thought it meant a person had been executed, when it actually meant the death penalty had been deferred for their whole natural life. That meant that the executions she said occurred never actually happened. Earlier this year, former New York Times editor Jill Abramson's book Merchants of Truth was discovered to contain passages copied from other authors and alleged to be full of simple factual errors as well.
So this is flat out plagiarism. And again, this is stuff that publishers are putting in books. So publishers are not fact-checking the books that they publish.
Around the same time, I noticed that a statistic in the New York Times Magazine and in Clive Thompson's upcoming book Coders was drawn from a study that doesn't seem to really exist. People trust books. When they read books by experts, they often assume that they're as serious and as carefully verified as scientific papers, or at least that there's some vetting in place. But often that...
And no, they aren't. I learned that in college. I learned I had a professor that said whenever you're doing a term paper or you're doing some type of essay or whatever and you quote a stat, never go to a magazine, never go to the news, never go to the news, and don't rely on a book from an expert. You have to go to some type of study. You have to go to some type of sociological study, psychological study, meaning you have to go to a library. And the reason why you use studies instead of articles and books is because studies are peer reviewed by other experts. I don't know if you ever read a scientific study or a doctorate study, but they have the methodology in the journal entry. And it's so other doctors or say sociologists or statisticians or other professionals in the field can examine their methodology and tell you whether or not it's true. Okay, all of that stuff is peer reviewed. And that's why. Now, the problem is those articles that you see in studies are extremely expensive. Some of them are like $50 a pop. Okay, and that's why a lot of people don't use them, because you got to pay a lot of money to get that information. And it's just cheaper to go to a book or just go according to some news article. But if you want your data to be actually true, you can't rely on the news, you cannot rely on a book, and you cannot rely on a single medical professional. You have to go to the studies, because the studies are peer reviewed by other professionals across the world.
That faith is misplaced. There are no good mechanisms to make sure books are accurate, and that's a problem. What we can learn from Dolan's error. There are a few major lessons here. The first is that books are not subject to peer review, and in the typical case, not even subject to fact-checking by the publishers. Often they put responsibility for fact-checking on the authors, who may vary in how thoroughly they conduct such fact-checks and in whether they have the expertise to notice errors in interpreting studies, like Wolf's or Dolan's. The second, Kimbrough told me, is that in many respects we got lucky in the Dolan case. Dolan was using publicly available data, which meant that when Kimbrough doubted his claims, he could look up the original data himself and check Dolan's work. It's good this work was done using public data.
And that's something else. He said they were lucky to catch Dolan because he was using public data. Dolan, he could have gone out and used private data and lied about it, and we never would have known. But because he made something that was available to the public, we were able to catch his lie.
Kimbrough told me. So I'm able to go pull the data and look into it and see, oh, this is clearly wrong. Many researchers don't do that. They instead cite their own data and decline to release it so they don't get scooped by other researchers.
Listen to that. They cite their own data and decline to release it so they don't be scooped by other researchers. This sounds like Cheyenne Bryant, doesn't it? Decline to present their, the credentials. In this case, data. So they can't be fact check. So this guy predates Cheyenne Bryant. This is the first Cheyenne Bryant.
With proprietary data sets that I couldn't just go look at, I wouldn't have been able to look and see that this was clearly wrong, Kimbrough told me. Academic culture is already changing to try to address that second problem. In response to the embarrassing retractions and failed replications associated with the replication crisis, more researchers are publishing their data and encouraging their colleagues to publish their data. Social science journals now often require authors to submit their data.
And that's social science journals, not news bureaus and not books. Okay. Now, let me tell you why this is so devastating. Now, this is the thing. I remember this. Now, look at the date. February 21st. February 21st. And this is in Psychology Today. This is in Psychology Today. And we got Wendy L. Patrick, JD, MDiv, PhD. So this is a woman with a double doctorate, I think. Or a doctorate. She's got a PhD. And she put an article in Psychology Today that was supposedly reviewed by Kaja Perina, by somebody who works there. And it's got a check mark. And he says, why are many single women happy without children? Single women without children are often happier and healthier than men and married women. Women tend to have stronger social networks outside their romantic, whatever. And I read this article, and it's right now it's up in Psychology Today. Here's the headline, so you can look it up yourself. She quoted Paul Dolan for this article. She quoted the book. Now, we just played the article that outlined that Paul Dolan was a liar, okay? That his publisher retracted the claim. Yet here she is 2 years later, putting it in Psychology Today. And this woman has a PhD. Pushing a lie. This is incredible. And I remember this because I actually emailed this woman and told her that the article that she's basing this on was a complete and utter lie. And you know what she did? She told me, I don't understand where I'm wrong. After I showed her the article and the publisher retracting that claim, she stood by it, refused to admit that she was right, and Psychology Today still has that article up there. Pushing this idea that women are happier being single without children, based on this bullshit that he put out there. This is dangerous. This is dangerous. This is dangerous. You have experts and websites, Psychology Today, that's supposed to be a website that's, where they publish articles by other experts. And they're pushing this idea that women will be happier without kids and without husbands. Stuff that we know isn't true. How do we know it's not true? Because we see it every day. Fellas, how many times have you seen, how often do you see women in their mid-40s that have no man and no children that look happy to you? You don't see any. You know they are the most miserable individuals you've ever seen. Those chronically single hyenas, those chronically single females, never been married, no kids. They are absolutely miserable. We see them all the time. They're the ones on social media causing us the most grief. They're not happy because they go home to an empty house. Well, maybe they have their cats, but that's what they go home to. These are not happy individuals. But you have people with doctorate degrees telling us that they are happy. They're even going as far as to lie about it so they can sell a book. And you got other goofballs that quote it, even though they've been told it was wrong. Even though there was an article proving it was wrong. Even though the publisher that put that out there said it was wrong. They still propagate it. They still propagate it. We complain and we talk about women a lot on this channel and other men's spaces, but the reality is a lot of women are victims. They've been sold a bill of goods. They've been told things that are not true. And they've based their lives around these untruths, and they're miserable about it. Antidepressant use amongst women has skyrocketed because they've done the things that society says are supposed to make them happy, but those things weren't true. And so now they go on antidepressants or think that there's something wrong with them because they're not able to be happy based on a lie that they've been told. That's discouraging. That's discouraging and troublesome. Check your sources, people. You know what else is troubling? This woman has a doctorate in psychology. I wonder if she's a counselor, if she's a marriage counselor. This is in the marriage section. Some of these people have patience. Cheyenne Bryant says she has patience and does sessions. And she doesn't even have a doctorate. They have patience that they're working with. That's incredible to me. There you go. Single women with no kids and husbands brag by day online that they're happy but cry in their pillow at night. And you know why they do? Because they have experts claiming that they are happy. That's why they're so comfortable lying, because they can find an expert that says that they're happy. That's why. This is devastating. This is devastating. And it's killing the West. Our birth rates are down in the West. And we'll talk about that next. Because we have convinced women that they should be happy not being married, not having kids. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna skip that story. I'm gonna skip that story. No, you know what? Yeah, because I can go on and on and on and on and on about that story. Okay. No, you know what? I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna talk about it because it relates to each other. So, let me think. I'm gonna do this story now, but I want to go to the next one. Because I really want to talk about this really bad. I want to talk about this Christian feminist I encountered. F it. We got to do overtime. We got to do overtime. I'm not going to worry about it. So, JD Vance nailed it. 40 years of importing low-wage immigrants to compete with Americans for jobs is killing the middle class. I've said it again and again. Nothing would help the middle class more than mass deportations. Amen. We've got here by 40 years of bipartisan leaders selling us individual base to foreign countries, selling our individual base to foreign countries, allowing low-wage immigrants to compete with American jobs by destroying the foundation of the middle class. That's how you got socialism or whatever. So let's listen to what J.D. Vance has to say. Now, there's something, he's going to say a lot here. Half I agree with and half I disagree with. But let's play it.
But I think, again, Laura, this is an important point. A lot of Americans look at this rising tide of socialism and say, how did we get here? We got here by 40 years of bipartisan leaders selling our industrial base to foreign countries, allowing low-wage immigrants to come in and compete with Americans for jobs, by destroying the foundation of the middle class. That's how you got socialism. How you fix that problem is by doubling down on Donald Trump's economic nationalism, not going back to the way we've done things for the past 40 years.
It's failed everywhere it's tried.
It's failed everywhere it's tried, and it always leads to socialism. It always leads exactly where we are. The only way to get out of it is to double down on the economics of the past 18 months. But I think...
Now, I agree with the first half of what he said. We have undercut the wages of American workers with cheap foreign labor, whether it be by outsourcing illegal migrant labor or H-1B visas. We flooded the market with cheap labor that has destroyed the income of American workers. That much I agree with. But he says Trump's economic policy. Well, what is Trump's economic policy regarding cheap labor? And I've played this before.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people
no, you
here.
don't. No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have. You don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
How did we ever do it before?
See that? Let's play something else.
It's so sad when we lose people from Harvard, MIT, from the greatest schools, and lesser schools that are phenomenal schools also. And what I wanted to do, and I would have done this, but then we had to solve the COVID problem because that came in and sort of dominated for a little while, as you perhaps know. But what I want to do and what I will do is you graduate from a college, I think you should get automatically as part of your diploma a green card to be able to stay in this country. And that includes junior colleges too. Anybody graduates from a college, you go in there for 2 years or 4 years. If you graduate or you get a doctorate degree from a college, you should be able to stay in this country. And you know more stories than I do, but I know of stories where people graduated from a top college or from a college and they desperately wanted to stay here. They had a plan for a company, a concept, and they can't. They go back to India, they go back to China, they do the same basic company in those places, and they become multi-billionaires employing thousands and thousands of people, and it could have been done here. And a bigger example is you need a pool of people to work for your companies. You have great companies, and they have to be smart people. Not everybody can be less than smart. You need brilliant people. And we force the brilliant people, the people that graduate from college, the people that are number one in their class from the best colleges, you have to be able to recruit these people and keep the people. It was such a big deal. Somebody graduates at the top of the class. They can't even make a deal with the company because they don't think they're going to be able to stay in the country. That is going to end on day one.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Of course. He loves that.
That's great. Well, I think we all wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. So, Vice President Vance is only halfway right. You know, Trump talks big when it comes to foreign labor, but in reality, he's against it. Remember that plan he came out with where he said they were going to charge people 100,000 companies $100,000 a year for bringing in workers? He backed away from that. He backed away from that. He believes in bringing in cheap workers. And it's been both parties. This isn't a Democrat thing. This isn't a Republican thing. This is a bipartisan thing where they've been undercutting American labor. You know. And the reason why I'm bringing that up, now some YT supremacists posted this, but I changed the meme. Americans aren't having enough babies. This is Elon Musk. He always says that. Americans aren't having enough babies. Let me see. And there it is. And stop giving their jobs away. Because Elon Musk is a huge advocate of H-1B visas. Because it saves him money. He has a tech company. And the best way for him to make money is to flood his company with cheap engineers and tech workers. You know, but then he wants to go around and say that Americans to have children. Well, how the hell do you have a child if you can't afford them? How With what job do you support these children with? And I get so animated about this because I remember 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people complaining about illegal immigrants working and driving down wages. And the thing was, well, go to school, get a skill, and do a high-paid job. They're just here to pick strawberries, things like that, and clean hotel rooms. Okay. But the IT industry, engineering, the medical field has been flooded with cheap workers. So now we're at a situation where high-paying jobs are being taken away. Remember what they used to tell factory workers that lost their jobs because they were being outsourced? Learn to code. Go get certified. Learn how to code. But now coders are losing their job because you have people like Elon Musk that are hiring foreign workers. So now no job is safe. But Americans aren't having enough babies. How can they? They can't afford them. They can't afford children. They can't. Yeah, thank you for talking about NAFTA. I think it was Ross Perot talked about, this was 30 years ago. He said, if NAFTA is approved, you're going to hear a sound of a vacuum of jobs being sucked out of the country. But NAFTA passed with the support of Democrats and Republicans, and it's been devastating. But how can you have children if you don't have jobs? It's crazy to me. But again, who remembers that post from Vivek Ramaswamy? You know what I'm talking about. Where is it? Americans have venerated mediocrity. Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy. Hold on. Vivek Ramaswamy and this guy, they're the same ethnicity. Okay. They hail from the same place. Of course, and he went on some long tangent about how we need to bring in some top tech workers. Well, most of the tech workers come from their part of the globe. In other words, he wants to hook up his people. But yeah. This is crazy. This is crazy. I have so much more to say to this, but And what's funny is there are Americans who believe that everything is okay in the country. Yeah, those would be the boomers. They don't understand technology. They think it's magic, and those who work in tech do voodoo. They think it's super hard work that Americans can't do. That's what they think. Someone said, boomers, they've been voting against your future since the 1980s. And they have been. Yeah. Wages in IT have stagnated. I had a gentleman tell me a story about he and his buddy, they graduated from college 20 years ago, making six figures, $100K a year in IT. He transitioned to sales because he has good soft skills. His buddy stayed in IT. 20 years later, his buddy is still making the same salary because the market has been flooded with cheap labor. Immigration policies are not going to continue. How is Social Security and other safety nets going to continue to be funded if Americans aren't having babies? Exactly. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is insane, man. Yeah. Yeah. So let's move on to the next topic. Let's move on to the next topic because talking about this makes me angry. And the reason why is that I'm somebody who's been affected by this twice. My father was a contractor. He was a roofer. And I watched his business die because his competition was using cheap migrant labor. And he couldn't compete because they dropped prices. He would hire Americans to work for him. And they would hire illegals and they put them out of business. Then later, as I entered the workforce in labor, working in the factories, I saw how factories were bringing in temp agencies that would hire illegals to work. I saw that in a UAW shop where they would allow these temp agencies to send in workers and the temp agencies would hire illegals. I remember going to a temp agency, and I've told this story before. The way that temp agencies work in manufacturing, you want to get there hours before a shift begins so you can go to work. And so I wanted to work the morning shift, so you have to get there at around 4 o'clock in the morning. And I remember sitting there with me and about 6 or 7 other black people waiting for jobs to come in so we could go to work. And we sat there all morning long. But one thing that I saw, all day we sat there, never got a job. But one thing we did see is we saw truckloads of men coming in who couldn't speak any English, and they were getting work assignments because they worked for, virtually nothing. They were cheaper. So we as Americans were being displaced by foreign labor, even at the temp agencies. And then years later, after I got out of manufacturing, I got into IT, and I've seen how wages have stagnated by cheap legal H-1B visas with legal labor, immigrant labor, that's legal. So my father was affected and I was affected twice. That's why it's so frustrating. And you wonder why Americans don't have children? Because you've sold all their jobs down the river so you can make a profit on your bottom line. But let's move on to the next topic. So let's start here. I'm going to open up all these stories so I won't have to have any kind of buffering going on. Let me prepare for this story. All right, here we go. Teacher charged with having relations with student in school closet, now accused of inappropriately touching 5 others, including a girl. And there she is. Teacher with 8-week-old baby pleads guilty to having relations with 15-year-old student. Florida nurse caught by husband having relations with 15-year-old stepson. Loses medical license, report here. Prep school teacher, 27, filmed relations with student she was tutoring. Quote, not my best thinking. Oh, okay. Police, 2 teachers accused of having threesome with teenage student. Well, let me put that one to the side because we'll talk about this one later. Then you have teen boy vanishes after alleged by California therapist as mom fears he's made a shocking decision. Long story short, the boy ran away with the accused teacher, with the therapist. They ran away together. Teacher 35 charged with that, I can't say that word, after allegedly having relations with her 2 adopted teens. Substitute teacher 27 charged with improper relationship with students. Ohio teacher 28 charged with carrying out twisted relationship with student. Married teacher admits to having relations with 16-year-old student in school closet, even in the bushes. Okay. Now, is there any more? And this is a video of a woman who had relations with an 11-year-old boy who's being arrested by police. Here's another case of a teacher who had relations with 2 pupils and is jailed, and she shows no remorse for that. Now, the reason why I like to talk about these cases is because of memes like this. Police, 2 teachers accused of having threesome with teenage students, and this is supposed to be the teenage student. So what they're trying to do is make it seem like, hey, he's happy that he got to have some action with 2 teachers because they're cute. And so that's one of the reasons why I talk about this, is because I want to dispel the notion that boys cannot be victims of flexual, underage relations. That somehow, if the teachers are cute, if the teachers are hot, that the boy is somehow lucky, that he enjoyed it. And we think there's no consequence of it. And the reason we have to stop thinking like that is because these women don't get sentenced to lengthy sentences like men would. They get short terms because they're cute, because they're pretty. And we have to dispel that notion that the boys just aren't okay because they enjoyed the act. There are many things that teenage boys enjoy, or kids in general enjoy, that's not good for them. There are kids that enjoy getting high. It feels good to them, but it does not mean that that's good for them. Okay? And I also want to dispel this notion that only men can be predatory. Women can be predatory too. Because it seems like every week or every 2 weeks, there's a new case of a woman touching on a underage male. This happens often. And we ignore it because they're cute. But when a man does it, hey, that breaks headlines everywhere, and we throw him under the bus, and we should. Adults should not be touching children. Okay. So why am I talking about this? Why am I bringing up all these cases of teachers, women, not just teachers, so with some nurses in here too. Why am I bringing up all these cases of women inappropriately touching boys? I'll show you why. So I posted this story in my Facebook group, and it's a feel-good story from a few years ago. It says a school breakfast with dads left out some kids without fathers. So the school asked for 50 volunteers, and 600 men showed up. Now that's beautiful. You have 50 kids that didn't have dads, and 600 men agreed to be their fathers just for the day so they can have this event, this breakfast with dads. And so it showed how, and a lot of these are black men, some are Hispanic men, but it shows how men, regardless of their ethnicity, want to support children and be there for children. Beautiful story, wonderful story, okay? Doesn't matter, it happened a couple of years ago. Let's play the ABC story. This happened back in 2018. Can I blow this up? Let's see if I can make this bigger. Yeah, I can. Let's play it.
America Strong. The boys gathered in one school auditorium who suddenly felt the love. How y'all doing, gentlemen?
You're about to witness something extraordinary that happened at Billy Earl Dade Middle School in South Dallas. They were organizing a Breakfast with Dads event, but they knew that some dads would not show.
These are mostly black kids. Look at that.
So they posted this message online. Please share, men need it. The reality of a great event like this is a lot of our kids will not have a dad present. We are in need of at least 50 or more additional male mentors. And what happened next stunned them all.
Look at all these men here. Isn't that amazing?
Hundreds of men showing up to mentor the boys. 600 filling the auditorium. The look on the students' faces said it all. Sharing the simplest of life lessons, how to tie a tie, how to play the trumpet, and sometimes just offering an ear.
Hi, David. My name is Exorian McQuarter.
Exorian, in the 7th grade, told us it inspired him.
It was pretty special, a one-in-a-lifetime experience.
He met so many fathers, like Assistant Chief of Police Jason Rodriguez, right there with 6th grader James Cruz.
When I walked in the room, words could not describe the feeling that came over me.
It was absolutely a life-changing event.
Jameel Tucker, a volunteer dad too.
Our young men need us, and it's our time to pay it forward.
Which is exactly what they did.
We love this story and those messages they sent us today. Thank you for watching here tonight.
So even ABC News talks about how beautiful this story is. And again, this is, if you look at the images, these are mostly black boys. Mostly black boys that don't have any fathers to show up to this event. 600 men showed up for them. 600 men across the color spectrum showed up to help be mentors to these boys. Mostly black men that showed up. Mostly black men that showed up. Because they love to push this notion that black men ain't you know what and black men don't want to take care of kids. No. 600 men showed up and most of them were black men to help mentor these children. That's a beautiful story, don't you think? That's a positive story. You know, exactly. This proves that men, especially black men, want to care about our boys. Absolutely. We talk about that study. I think it was by the CDC that talked about how black men are statistically the most involved fathers. They're more likely to change diapers, more likely to read bedtime stories, more likely to pick up their kids and take them to school. It happened in South Dallas. Okay. Beautiful story. A kind of story that brings tears to your eyes. So I posted this in a Facebook group that I have. Okay. And this is what, I'm going to block out her face because I want to be I want to show her a level of respect that she didn't show men. Okay. And there was a woman who wrote, unfortunately, PDF files like children too. And that this is the hidden danger here. Even though it's meant for good, there will be those who will exploit it for evil. What kind of shit is that to say? At a positive story. You have 50 boys, mainly black boys, that don't have dads. A man shows up. 600 men show up for the 50 that didn't have fathers and volunteered to be their dads at this event. And the first thing that comes to your mind is how this is a bad thing because predators might show up. And you call it a hidden danger. What the hell is wrong with you? Now, I have a lot of mutual friends with this individual. That's how they found my group. And I looked at their profile. This is on their profile. About me, walking the narrow path, anchored in the word, led by the Spirit, encouraging others to follow Jesus. I went through her profile and she has a lot of Republican stuff, a lot of conservative stuff. So here you have a Christian conservative that sees a story. Now, here's the thing. Whenever you talk to conservatives, they love going in and trashing the black community. You black men need to pull up your pants, stop smoking that weed, take care of your kids, stop committing crimes. Isn't that what we always told? That we're just a bunch of super criminals, particularly by those on the right? Especially when it comes to modern women who think we should step up and take care of somebody else's kids. They love saying some stuff like that. So here you had 600 men show up to take care of 50 kids. And even still, you've got something negative to say while encouraging others to follow Jesus. How is that the first thing that pops in your head? Black men do something positive, and the first thing you do is look for the negative in it. You look for the negative in it. I couldn't believe that. Now, when I heard that lovely lady, or when I saw that lovely lady, and I'm using that in quotations, say that, I wanted to clap back at her. But I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because I can use it. I can use it on the show. And there would be no point in arguing with her. Excuse me for a second. Let me close this up because I want to keep her presence private. I want to show her a level of respect that she didn't show to men when she made that comment. Give me 1 second. I got to bring it up. I don't want to show her. Okay. But I want to give a shout out to the brothers that were there to respond and correct her behavior. Mr. Huff writes, yep, these will be the same women asking where are the real men who are willing to step up, as women shouldn't be out here doing work alone. Shout out to Mr. Arturo. This ain't got nothing to do with that. This blank ain't got nothing to do with this. There was no reason for her to bring it up. Then she wants to fight back. Shout out to Jonathan T. West. Talk about jealous. Men know where their priorities are. We would rather help children than to go to clubs, mixers, meet and greets, and all other events that women are creating to lure men in attempts to find possible mates. We read comments like this and say, nope, hard pass. Exactly. Now, I like what this woman wrote. She said, this is another woman, God bless her for saying, she says, you are not wrong. Some people are predators and would take advantage of this kind of event. And that's true. I just went through a long list of women who are teachers and one who was a nurse who used their position to take advantage of young boys. Okay. And I'm sorry if you've ever been victimized or know someone who has, which would help explain your unbalanced statement. But that's the problem I and apparently others are having with it. The problem with your comment is not that it isn't true, because it is. No, the problem is that you've essentially thrown a bucket of cold water on a positive, inspiring story. Surely you're not suggesting such events should not happen, just in case, are you? Surely you're not saying the chances of a child being victimized outweigh the need for fatherless children. That's a bar right there. Surely you're not saying that the chances of a child victimization outweigh the need for fatherless children to feel cared about and affirmed for an hour, are you? You throw your bucket of water without addressing how that need is being met. You offer no alternative, thus the reactions you're getting. And people were cooking her. I'm not going to play all of it because people were cussing her out. And that's the part that blows my mind. Again, you see a story of black men, 600 men, mostly black, coming to help 50 children who need fathers. And the first place you go is that you call them potential predators. You call them potential predators, but you want to encourage others to follow Jesus in your profile. Now I want to play another clip from the late Vadi Bakum.
Lie.
And in this clip, he's going to talk about Christian feminism in the church. Christian feminism in the church. Let's play it.
Feminism does not exist because there is a vacuum. There is a vacuum because feminism exists. Listen to Wendy McElroy in her piece, Marriage and the Family, an Ideological Battleground. Although the gender feminist view of marriage borders on the absurd, for example, housework as surplus value, it is key to understanding the depth of hatred they aim at heterosexual sex and men. This, in turn, is key to understanding the emotions that fuel sexual correctness. To the sexually correct feminist, marriage oppresses women and the family breeds patriarchy. There's that word again, patriarchy, male headship. Happily married women are considered pathological and traitorous. Well, that's just in radical feminist circles, right? No, that's in the church, y'all. No, it's not in the church. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You can do an experiment, okay? Here's what I want you to do. If you don't have a teenage girl, borrow one. And then you have a luncheon. You have a luncheon with a bunch of church women, and you bring the teenage girl to the luncheon with the church women. And you get the teenage girl before she walks into the luncheon with the church ladies, and you say to her, listen, we're about to go into the room with a bunch of church ladies. You're going to be the only teenage girl in the room. They're going to ask you what you want to do and what you want to be. Here's what I want you to tell them. I want to be a wife and a mother. And you just keep telling them that. Don't say anything else. And you walk into the luncheon with the church ladies and watch them greet the young lady, be kind and warm and welcoming to her, and ask her what she's doing with her life, and ask her what she wants to be and where she wants to go. And you let her look him in the eye and say, I want to be a wife and a mother, and watch how they press her. Yeah, that's good, baby, but what else you want to do? What do you want to do for you? Yeah, that's good, but I mean, you know, do you have any career goals and ambitions and this? I just want to be a wife and a mother. And watch the fangs come out of the church ladies. Not talking about university professors. I'm talking about Sunday school teachers who are fire-breathing feminists who agree with the statement that McElroy makes.
There it is. There it is. There it is. And you wonder why men stay out of the church. You wonder why masculine men stay out of the church. You wonder why. Now, we talk about one-sided accountability, but one of the factors is that you don't want to be treated as if you're some type of super predator. You walk into the church and the predisposition is to immediately think that you're up to no good because you're a single man. Yeah. Now, this woman would call herself a Christian. I wouldn't. I would call her a church lady because I don't want to conflate my faith with the BS that happens in the church. Because the church, and as we saw right there in Vodi Bakkum's clip, he's a pastor. But he talks about how the church is filled with fire-breathing feminists. Christian feminists. Church feminists. Yeah, and again, shout out to those brothers for calling her out. It's the constant demonization of men, absolutely. Thank you, Link, for the contribution to the channel. Much appreciated. Exactly, like females aren't PDF files. And that's why I started this segment by playing all of those female PDF files. Or PDFs. That woman has misandry on her mind. Absolutely. That's a woman who wakes up thinking about ways she can, come after men. Exactly, Malika. This is disappointing, to say the least. Frustrating, more likely. More frustrating, more likely. So you hear the music, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's time for me to wrap up the show. I want to thank you all for coming out to this Friday's episode of Layman's Journal Live. Thank you for the contributions. Thank you for chatting. I need that. I appreciate that. And again, next Friday, I'm going to have a thing where you guys can just come up and where you guys can just chat. And I'll read the chats. It'll be your show. It'll be a conversation and we can talk about, you can ask me anything, we can discuss anything, any topic on Friday. I might bring up one issue and then from there, it's just you guys in the chat. Okay? But again, you can catch me streaming on all these fine platforms, not on Kick today. I'm having issues with Kick, but you can catch me on YouTube, Rumble, and Twitch, as well as Kick on normal days. Okay? I have a Patreon channel. For those who don't know, this channel started off dedicated to entertainment media where I would do reviews and long form breakdowns. But due to copyright restraints, I had to move those operations over to Patreon, where you can find these long form breakdowns of movies that we all love and talk about. Now, some of them are paid, but a lot of them are free, okay? And so I would love for you to go over there and become a member and follower of my Patreon channel, preferably as a paid member, but if, just be a free member. I would love to have you, reach out to you and make contact with you on Patreon, because you never know what the future may hold. I may get booted off of YouTube or something like that. Okay? I want to give a shout out to my media, Dark Room Society. Thank you so much for being here and helping me. And Malika Me Bain as well. Thank you all else as well for being here. All right? So today is Friday, better known as Cookie Day, though I will not be having cookies today. And as a matter of fact, let me go ahead and do this. I always forget. Let me see one more time. Is that it? Speaking of Dark Room Society, she has a YouTube channel. I want you to go over there and subscribe to her channel. Look at some of her videos, leave a comment, give a like, and let her know the Layman's Journal sent you. Okay? So that's it. I will see you all on Monday. We'll have a whole bunch of topics to talk about. And on Friday is your day. We'll just have a discussion talking about whatever. So, have a wonderful weekend. This is the Layman's Journal, and I am